The Reconquista was a centuries-long campaign by Christian kingdoms in the Iberian Peninsula to regain control over land that had been conquered and ruled by Muslim forces. This struggle spanned from the 8th century through the 15th century. The major Christian powers involved in the Reconquista were the kingdoms of Aragon, Castile, León, and Navarre. These realms, located in modern-day Spain and Portugal, sought to drive out the Muslim Moors who had conquered large swaths of the Iberian Peninsula in the 8th century. The Moors, followers of Islam, had rapidly expanded their control over the region after initially crossing the Strait of Gibraltar from North Africa in 711 AD. Within a few decades, they had conquered most of present-day Spain and Portugal, establishing the Umayyad Caliphate's rule over the Iberian territories. However, pockets of Christian resistance persisted, particularly in the mountainous northern regions. Small Christian kingdoms and principalities like Asturias, Aragon, Navarre, and León gradually chipped away at Moorish control, launching military campaigns to recapture cities and towns. This marked the beginning of the centuries-long Reconquista. Over time, the Christian realms grew in power and coordination, with the kingdoms of Aragon, Castile, León, and Navarre emerging as the dominant players. Through a series of bloody conflicts, alliances, and political maneuverings, these Christian monarchies systematically worked to drive the Moors southward, reconquering territory bit by bit. The Reconquista was not a single unified campaign, but rather a complex, protracted struggle involving shifting loyalties, temporary truces, and periods of both advance and retreat for the Christian and Muslim forces. It would ultimately take nearly 800 years for the Christians to fully reclaim the Iberian Peninsula from Moorish rule. The Reconquista saw some important early Christian victories that set the stage for the long struggle to come. The first of these was the Battle of Covadonga in 722 AD. This pivotal battle took place in the Cantabrian mountains of northern Spain. A small army of Asturian Christians, led by the nobleman Pelagius, decisively defeated a much larger Moorish force that had been sent to crush the nascent Christian resistance. Pelagius and his men were able to ambush and rout the Muslim troops in the narrow mountain passes, marking the first major Christian victory over the Moors. This win allowed the Kingdom of Asturias to establish itself as an independent Christian stronghold, providing a base from which further reconquest efforts could be launched. The Battle of Covadonga was a watershed moment, demonstrating that the Moorish invaders were not invincible and that the Christian kingdoms could push back against their expansion. It breathed new life into the Reconquista movement and inspired further Christian resistance across Iberia. Another key early victory came in 1085, when the Christian king Alfonso VI of León and Castile captured the city of Toledo. Toledo had been a major Moorish stronghold, serving as the capital of the region under Muslim rule. Its fall to Alfonso's forces was a huge symbolic and strategic blow to the Umayyad Caliphate. The reconquest of Toledo marked a major turning point, as it allowed the Christian kingdoms to establish a solid foothold in central Iberia. The capture of Toledo also had significant cultural and religious implications. As the former seat of Visigothic power before the Islamic conquest, the city held immense historical and spiritual significance for the Christian Reconquistadors. Its reclamation was seen as the restoration of Christian dominance in the region. These early triumphs, at Covadonga and Toledo, provided crucial momentum for the Christian cause. They demonstrated the ability of the northern kingdoms to challenge Moorish supremacy and galvanized further efforts to roll back Islamic control across the Iberian Peninsula. The Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa in 1212 marked a major turning point in the long struggle of the Reconquista. This decisive clash shifted the momentum decisively in favor of the Christian kingdoms against their Moorish adversaries. The battle pitted a coalition of Iberian Christian armies, led by King Alfonso VIII of Castile, against the formidable Almohad Caliphate, a powerful Muslim dynasty that had come to dominate much of North Africa and southern Spain. The two sides met in the rugged mountain passes near the town of Las Navas de Tolosa in southern Spain. The Christian forces, though outnumbered, were able to outmaneuver and overwhelm the Almohad army through a combination of strategic brilliance and sheer military might. A key factor in the Christian victory was their ability to break through the Almohad's intimidating triple-tiered defensive formation. After several intense clashes, the Christians managed to punch a hole in the Muslim lines, allowing their troops to flood into the Almohad camp and rout the defenders. The defeat at Las Navas de Tolosa was a catastrophic blow to the Almohad Caliphate. Thousands of their soldiers were killed, and the once formidable Muslim army was left shattered and demoralized. This crushing loss severely undermined the Almohad's control over Iberia and paved the way for further Christian advances. In the aftermath of Las Navas de Tolosa, the balance of power shifted dramatically in favor of the Reconquistadors. The Almohads never fully recovered from this devastating defeat, and their authority over southern Spain rapidly crumbled in the following decades. This pivotal battle marked a crucial turning point, allowing the Christian kingdoms of Aragon, Castile, León, and Navarre to accelerate their conquest of Moorish-held territory. With the Almohad threat diminished, the Reconquista gained unstoppable momentum that would eventually lead to the fall of the last Moorish stronghold, the Nasrid Kingdom of Granada, in 1492. The Battle of Las Navas de Tolosa was a watershed moment, setting the stage for the Christian kingdoms to complete their centuries-long struggle to expel the Moors and reassert their dominance over the Iberian Peninsula. The final chapter of the Reconquista came in 1492 with the capture of the last Moorish stronghold, the Emirate of Granada. This marked the complete reconquest of the Iberian Peninsula by the Christian kingdoms. Granada had long been the last remaining Muslim-controlled territory in Spain. Located in the southern region, it had resisted the advances of the Reconquistadors for centuries. However, in 1481, the Catholic Monarchs, King Ferdinand II of Aragon and Queen Isabella I of Castile, launched a concerted military campaign to bring Granada under their control. After over a decade of grueling sieges and battles, the Christian armies were finally able to breach the formidable defenses of the Alhambra, Granada's iconic royal palace and fortress. In January 1492, the Nasrid dynasty's last sultan, Boabdil, surrendered the city to the victorious Catholic monarchs. The fall of Granada was a momentous event, signifying the complete triumph of the Christian Reconquista. With the Moors expelled from their last foothold, the Iberian Peninsula was now firmly under the control of the unified Kingdom of Spain, ruled by Ferdinand and Isabella. This historic conquest had profound ramifications. It marked the end of nearly 800 years of Muslim rule in Spain, and the consolidation of the Christian kingdoms into a single, dominant power. The unification of Aragon and Castile under the Catholic monarchs laid the foundations for the modern Spanish state. Beyond the military victory, the capture of Granada also had significant cultural and religious implications. The Moors, who had deeply influenced Spanish architecture, art, and society over the centuries, were now forcibly expelled or assimilated. This led to the erasure of Moorish heritage and the imposition of Catholic orthodoxy across the Iberian Peninsula. If you're enjoying the story so far, what part has surprised you most? Let us know in the comments below what you think about how these events shaped the course of the Reconquista. The fall of Granada in 1492 was truly a transformative moment, not just for Spain, but for the entire trajectory of European history. It marked the definitive end of the Reconquista and the birth of a newly unified, Catholic Spain, a superpower that would go on to play a pivotal role on the global stage in the centuries to come. The centuries-long campaign to drive the Moors out of Spain had profound religious and cultural ramifications that would reverberate for generations. Two of the most significant consequences were the expulsion of both Moors and Jews from the Iberian Peninsula, and the lasting influence this had on Spanish identity and policies. As the Christian kingdoms steadily regained control over Moorish-held territories, they sought to eliminate the presence of Muslim and Jewish communities within their realms. This culminated in the issuance of the Alhambra Decree in 1492 by the Catholic monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella. The Alhambra Decree mandated the expulsion of all Jews from Spain, giving them just 4 months to either convert to Catholicism or be exiled. Thousands of Jews were forced to flee the country, losing their homes, businesses, and way of life. Many perished during the arduous journey into exile. Shortly after, the remaining Moorish population was also targeted. Although some Moors had already been absorbed into Spanish society, the majority were given the same ultimatum: convert or be expelled. Faced with this stark choice, hundreds of thousands of Moors also left Spain, migrating to North Africa. The forced removal of these minority religious and ethnic groups had a profound and lasting impact on Spanish culture and national identity. With the Moors and Jews gone, Spain emerged as a staunchly Catholic, ethnically homogeneous society. This shaped Spanish policies and attitudes for centuries to come. The Spanish Inquisition, established in 1478, became a tool to ruthlessly root out any remaining non-Catholic influences, leading to further persecution of Jews, Protestants, and other religious minorities. The legacy of the Reconquista also manifested in Spain's increasing sense of Catholic supremacy and imperial ambition. Driven by the zeal to defend the faith and expand the reach of Christendom, the newly unified Spanish state eagerly embarked on global exploration and colonization in the 15th and 16th centuries. Thus, the Reconquista left an indelible mark on Spanish society. The expulsion of the Moors and Jews, and the consolidation of Catholic dominance, became central to the forging of a distinct Spanish national identity, one that prized religious orthodoxy, cultural uniformity, and territorial expansion as core values. The centuries-long campaign of the Reconquista played a pivotal role in consolidating the various Christian kingdoms of the Iberian Peninsula into a unified Spanish state. The gradual reconquest of Moorish-held territories was a key driver in this process of political unification. Prior to the Reconquista, the Iberian Christian realms, including Aragon, Castile, León, and Navarre, had often been rivals, battling each other as well as the common Moorish foe. However, as the Reconquista progressed and the Christian advance gained momentum, there was an increasing need for coordination and cooperation between these kingdoms. The marriage of Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile in 1469 was a watershed moment that began to forge a unified Spanish monarchy. By consolidating their respective kingdoms under a single crown, Ferdinand and Isabella were able to align their military efforts and resources towards the goal of fully expelling the Moors from the Iberian Peninsula. The capture of Granada in 1492 marked the culmination of this unification process. With the last Moorish stronghold fallen, the Christian kingdoms were now able to turn their attention inward, working to centralize power and establish a cohesive Spanish state. Crucial to this was the steady erosion of regional autonomy and the increasing dominance of the crown. The Reconquista had given the monarchs of Aragon and Castile greater control over taxation, legislation, and the military, allowing them to gradually subsume the authority of local lords and regional parliaments. The foundations laid by the Reconquista also enabled the Spanish monarchs to embark on ambitious imperial projects in the decades that followed. The expulsion of the Moors and Jews paved the way for Spain's global expansion and colonization, as the newly unified kingdom possessed the resources, manpower, and sense of Catholic zeal to project its power worldwide. Thus, the long struggle to reconquer Iberia from Muslim rule was pivotal in shaping the political landscape of the Iberian Peninsula. By consolidating the Christian kingdoms under a single, centralized Spanish monarchy, the Reconquista laid the groundwork for the emergence of Spain as a major European and global power in the 16th century and beyond. The successful conclusion of the Reconquista, culminating in the capture of Granada in 1492, unleashed a new wave of Spanish expansionism and exploration that would have profound global consequences. With the Iberian Peninsula now firmly under Christian rule, the unified Spanish monarchy, led by King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, turned its sights outward. The Reconquista had given Spain a sense of destiny, a belief that it was destined to spread Catholicism and Spanish influence across the world. This missionary zeal, combined with a hunger for power, wealth, and resources, drove the Spanish to embark on an ambitious program of overseas exploration and colonization in the late 15th and 16th centuries. Spearheaded by legendary figures like Christopher Columbus, these voyages of discovery rapidly expanded Spain's reach beyond Europe. The legacy of the Reconquista was clearly visible in the Spanish approach to these global endeavors. Just as they had systematically reconquered Iberia from the Moors, the Spanish now sought to subjugate and convert non-Christian peoples across the Americas, Africa, and Asia. The Catholic faith and the Spanish crown went hand in hand as the cornerstones of this imperial project. Spanish conquistadors, fueled by the crusading spirit of the Reconquista, ruthlessly claimed new lands, vanquished indigenous populations, and established colonial outposts to expand Spanish influence. The brutality and religious intolerance that had characterized the expulsion of the Moors and Jews found echoes in the treatment of native peoples in the Americas. Moreover, the centralization of power that had occurred during the Reconquista empowered the Spanish monarchy to efficiently manage and extract resources from its far-flung colonial empire. The crown's ability to project military might and exert control over distant territories was a direct legacy of the political unification forged through the centuries-long struggle against the Moors. Thus, the Reconquista left an indelible mark on Spain's global ambitions in the 15th and 16th centuries. The triumphant Christian reclamation of the Iberian Peninsula provided the confidence, resources, and ideological framework that fueled Spain's rise as a dominant colonial power, shaping the contours of the emerging global order. The Reconquista was a pivotal event not just in the history of Spain, but in the broader context of Iberian and European history. The centuries-long struggle to drive out the Moors and reassert Christian control over the Iberian Peninsula had profound and far-reaching consequences. At the most fundamental level, the Reconquista shaped the very boundaries and identity of the Iberian nations. By expelling the Moors and consolidating the Christian kingdoms into a unified Spanish state, the Reconquista determined the territorial and cultural contours of modern-day Spain and Portugal. This laid the groundwork for the distinct Iberian nationalities and rivalries that would persist into the modern era. But the impact of the Reconquista extended well beyond the Iberian region. As the newly empowered Spanish monarchy embarked on its global imperial ventures in the 15th and 16th centuries, the crusading zeal and organizational capabilities honed during the Reconquista became key drivers of Spain's rise as a dominant European power. The Spanish colonization of the Americas, for instance, was directly enabled by the political, military, and economic foundations established through the long struggle against the Moors. Moreover, the Reconquista had significant religious and ideological ramifications that reverberated across Europe. The expulsion of Muslims and Jews, and the imposition of Catholic orthodoxy in Spain, reinforced the perception of Spain as the staunch defender of Christian Christendom against the infidel forces of Islam. This contributed to the growing religious tensions and polarization that would eventually culminate in the Protestant Reformation. Even in the modern era, the legacy of the Reconquista remains highly relevant in understanding the unique character of Spain and its place within the broader European context. The centralization of power, the emphasis on national and religious identity, and the sense of imperial destiny that emerged from the Reconquista continue to shape Spanish politics, culture, and society. Debates over issues like regional autonomy, immigration, and the role of religion in public life often have their roots in the Reconquista's complex historical legacy. Analyzing this seminal chapter in Iberian history is crucial to grappling with the forces that have molded the modern Spanish state and its relationship with the rest of Europe. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share with your friends, and comment on your reflections about the Reconquista. And of course, subscribe to the Medieval Chronicles channel to keep exploring the fascinating world of the Middle Ages. The Reconquista was a transformative episode that left an indelible mark on the trajectory of Iberian and European history. Its profound and lasting impact continues to resonate in the cultural, political, and religious fabric of modern-day Spain and beyond.